This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. We don't like seeing what's going on in the European auto industry right now, as the disruptive changes that we've been warning about here for years are really starting to hit home, and we hate to say it, but this is just the beginning. Let's start with Volkswagen, where the situation in Germany with its union IG Metall is getting to be pretty tense. The latest round of negotiations ended with both sides far apart on how to cut costs. Up till now, workers were prohibited by their labor contract to go on strike, but that only holds until November 30th. And after that, IG Metall will likely start staging walkouts to pressure Volkswagen at the negotiating table. But as we said, both sides are far apart. VW wants to close plants and lay off workers, while the union is offering to forego any future pay raises. They start negotiating again on December 9th, but we think we're going to see strikes and mass protests before this gets resolved. And VW's problems are rippling throughout the German auto industry. Bosch announced it will get rid of 5,500 employees by the end of 2027. Those people work on ADAS, EV motors, and steering at different plants around the country. And IG Metall promises it's going to fight those plant closings too. And Webasto, the German supplier that makes sunroofs, convertible tops, and heating equipment, says it has to restructure its debt. It's selling off assets like its EV charging stations, and it hired Rothschild & Company, a private equity firm that handles mergers and acquisitions. And last, Mercedes-Benz says it needs to cut costs by billions of euros a year, though it didn't say how or when it will do that. But it sure sounds like layoffs and plant closings could be part of the plan. Now, over to Sweden, where Northvolt filed for bankruptcy. The EV battery startup raised over $10 billion in funding from Volkswagen, BMW, Volvo, and private equity, but it's run out of money. It only has enough cash on hand to run for a week, and it has over $5 billion in debt. Northvolt CEO Peter Carlson stepped down and says the company needs over $1 billion right now just to keep its operations going. Interestingly, Northvolt filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the U.S. because it has some operations in California. And U.S. bankruptcy laws are considered to be easier for companies that are trying to restructure their debts. Launching a battery plant is really hard to do, and we think there's a good chance that someone could pick up the company for pennies on the dollar. In North America, Stellantis says it's reconsidering moving production to Mexico and other low-cost countries, and it's all because of Trump's threats to increase tariffs on imported vehicles. Last month, Ram announced plans to move some production from the U.S. to Mexico, where it also builds heavy-duty trucks. But Chris Fuel, the CEO of Ram, now says the company is looking into alternatives for its plant and supplier networks if the Trump administration imposes tariffs on imports that disrupt its supply chains. But no decisions have been made yet. Last year, Hyundai formed a partnership with Amazon to allow car buyers in the U.S. to shop for and buy its vehicles on Amazon's website. It was supposed to kick off this year, but Jose Munoz, the current head of Hyundai North America, but soon to become the CEO of the entire Hyundai Motor Group, says that the launch of the platform was delayed because of that cyberattack on CDK's dealer management system this summer. More than half of Hyundai's dealers were disrupted by the attack, which forced it to delay the online buying platform. But Munoz says it will be ready to launch in January. The platform allows buyers to search for vehicles, pick the model, trim, color, and features they want, and choose payment and finance options through Amazon's checkout.
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. driver communication data, and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Nearby Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
The University of Waterloo in Canada revealed a new way of making battery anodes that could significantly reduce charging time while also increasing lifespan. Anodes are typically made from graphite and other additives and binders, but those additives and binders can block the electrical pathway. So the University of Waterloo developed graphite binders that have electron, ion, and heat transfer properties, which frees up those pathways. It showed that it could charge a battery from 0 to 80% in 15 minutes while still retaining 80% of its original capacity after 800 fast charging cycles. The best part is, there's no exotic materials being used, and battery makers wouldn't have to make any changes to existing production lines. But they've only made prototypes to gauge interest and are still working on how to produce them at scale. Yesterday, Volkswagen revealed the all-new Tiguan, and we were surprised it won't have a hybrid option in the US at launch, since hybrid sales are going really strong. And while VW does have a plan to offer one, it's going to be a few years away. VW's head of sales in the US said that a hybrid for the Tiguan will, quote, be coming mid-cycle sometime. It still hasn't decided if it will be a regular hybrid or a plug-in, but both options are on the table. VW also said the next Atlas will have some form of hybridization, but it's not set for a redesign until 2026. So, if you were hoping for a VW hybrid, you're going to have to wait a while. And VW hasn't sold a hybrid in the US since it dropped the Jetta hybrid in 2016. And while VW is dragging its feet with hybrids, Jeep CEO Antonio Filosa says it will be adding a hybrid to its lineup next year in the US. It will be a regular hybrid and not a plug-in, and will be a replacement for the Cherokee, which was discontinued last year. Filosa also said Jeep could add a pure electric version of the model in the future if it sees strong demand for one. The LA Auto Show kicked off today, and Kia has a trio of new models on display. It refreshed its top-selling and longest-running nameplate in the US, the Sportage. It's highlighted by fresh design on the outside and a standard curved screen on the inside, which can be augmented by an available head-up display. The model is still offered with an ICE hybrid and plug-in hybrid setup, but the electrified versions do see a slight bump in power. Next up, Kia introduced a sportier GT version of the EV9. At its heart is a dual-motor all-wheel drive system that produces an estimated 500 horsepower, which has Kia targeting a 0 to 60 time of 4.3 seconds. The model also boasts its own unique styling features, upgraded brakes, a standard NACS charging port, and what it calls virtual gear shift. Inspired by the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, it simulates gear shifts with visuals, engine sound effects, and other adjustments to the motors. That same feature will also be available on the new EV6, which is also getting a refresh for the 2025 model year. It doesn't have major styling changes, but the biggest tweaks are to the front fascia. Kia tweaked battery sizes as well, to a slightly larger 63 and 84 kilowatt hours. And it gave the EV6 its latest operating system, which is faster and has expanded standard OTA capabilities. The refreshed 2025 model, excluding the GT version, will be built at the Hyundai Group's new plant in Georgia, where it joins the EV9, as well as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and 9. And speaking of new models, Car News China reports that Volvo is going to launch a new plug-in hybrid exclusively for the Chinese market. Interestingly, it says the vehicle will be based on a Lynk & Co model, which is also owned by Geely. Lynk & Co sales have not been good in China, and Zeekr, another Geely brand, just took a controlling stake in Lynk & Co., even buying out a 30% share from Volvo. So even though it looks like Lynk & Co. is going away, its technology will probably continue to spread throughout the Geely Group. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for making Autoline a part of your day, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Making a life full of memories, one road trip at a time. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Weather Peak Tires, with a 70,000-mile limited warranty.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details, and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.